There's certainly a lot of excitement down in Tucson for a couple of those guys, and joining us right now, you get your wish. Kevin Sumlin, the head coach of the Wildcats, is with us. Coach, Yogi just dropped defensive coordinator. Can you just explain where you guys are at right now in terms of that search?
Yeah, we're closing in on a guy that I think we're going to be excited with. I know I'm excited about, and I look for that announcement to happen fairly quickly.
I love that. All right, well, I can't wait to hear that breaking news. That being said, what has it been like on the road recruiting since the season ended with the season you guys have had, in the vibe of the program and the opportunity that's there for young players to come in early?
Well, it's just like you just said. You know, it wasn't the season that we really wanted, but I think, you know, on the recruiting path, the trail, you know, we've recruited some guys that want to come in and play early. I think we've proven that at every stop that I've been in, and the best players are going to play. And so we played a lot of first-year players last year, not just freshmen, but some junior college transfers that made an impact. And I know that on the recruiting trail, the student athletes that we talk to see that and see those opportunities to come in here and make an impact and play early.
Coach, Yogi dropped Grant Gunnell's name. We saw him in action late in the season. Obviously, some really positive things that he was able to do on the football field. Curious, when you go into a living room and you have a guy that's already had some success in terms of skill position players, how do you use that as a recruiting piece to get more talent down to Tucson?
Well, it's come here and play early, right, and make an impact. And you know, I think we've proven that. I think there are guys that we've signed, not just as in high school programs, but in junior college programs and transfers. With the transfer portal, the way it works right now, there's guys that are looking for opportunities to impact the football program, show their skills, have a chance to play at the next level. And we got a beautiful place here and a world-class university, and you know that part's easy to sell. But with the young players, the young guys, and the talent that's out there across the country, they see opportunities to come here and be successful. And I think you know, last year with the number of first-year players that played that had success at their positions, guys see that and want to be a part of it.
So speaking of, you know this better than anybody. You got to win up front in the offensive line. Josh Baker. How did you go find this guy in the Midwest and get him, and where do you expect him to play for you in terms of early potential on this offensive line?
Well, we had some guys play last year, unfortunately, that you know, we didn't want them to play early, but they did because of injury. But this guy's you know, he's a really strong young player for a high school guy, really physical, can play inside, can snap the ball. You know, he's more of an inside interior lineman. But will give us depth inside and maybe even at center.
Wide receiver. Big fan watching Dalen Miller at wideout. I thought, to me, a guy that's in your state can make a lot of plays. When you see Grant Gunnell throwing the ball around, I imagine that helped recruit that position. What can you tell us about this young man?
Well, you know, we're really only losing, from a production standpoint, Cedric Peterson from last year. You know, this guy is a different player. You know, he's a 6'2", 6'3" guy that can go up and get it and runs really well, strong hands, good releases, really physical receiver. And you know, for what we do, not just in the red zone, but the screen game, he's going to be a big part of it.
Coach, who's the guy in the class right now that you think is going to have an immediate impact in week one?
Well, I don't know. You know, I say this every year. You know, when we sit in there and in the meetings in training camp, there's always a guy that nobody's really counting on that's going to end up playing a lot for us and making big plays. I think all these guys are capable. You know, we sit in those living rooms and talk about, you know, it's not up to me whether you redshirt, it's how you play. And you know, we're not recruiting these guys to come stand next to us. We're recruiting them to get on the field and to give them those opportunities. So, you know, for us, they're all capable. We'll just see how it plays out.
You've gone all across the country to get players. I want to ask about one of your most recent commits. I hope I pronounced his name right, Majon Wright. Dynamic on both sides of the ball. How did you get him out of Florida as late as you did, and where do you hope to see him within this program?
Well, he's got tremendous bloodlines too. You know, he's with his brothers have played at a high level. You know, we have relationships in in that area of the country, and particularly in Broward County. And you know, we've signed players from Broward County, and you know, the coaches there kind of brought him up, and he had interest, we had interest, and you know, he came out and just loved it. You know, it helps that maybe a guy hadn't seen mountains before, right, living there, but mountains and palm trees, and he fell in love with us, and he's just a tremendous talent, and he's another guy that is looking to get on the field early, and you know, physically. He's going to be capable of that. It's just how quickly he can pick things up.
Speaking of palm trees, not too many palm trees in Berlin, Germany. Roberto Miranda. How does this happen? Somebody comes from Europe now all the way over to Tucson.
Well, you know, there's really a pipeline of guys that are coming from there, and we lost one last year that we thought we were going to get as a linebacker, but this guy's a big physical H-back type guy that can play inside, outside, be in the slot, you know, get tight to the line of scrimmage, and has that kind of body type. And you know, for us, I think he's the kind of player that, you know, the sky's the limit for him because he hasn't played a lot of football, you know, with strength and conditioning. Getting in and really working at the sport at a different level for him, you know, who knows? You know, the sky's the limit for this guy.
And I know, Yogi, you're excited about Miranda. We're going to talk more about him in a couple minutes here. Coach, before we let you get going, you mentioned the transfer portal a little bit earlier. From a philosophy standpoint, how does that impact how you manage your class? I would imagine maybe you keep some numbers, but at the same time, kind of, I don't know, maybe there's even some concern, I think every coach in this country right now has, about some of his guys leaving. So the strategy and philosophy behind this portal and how players are using it, how does it affect what you guys do?
Well, you have to recruit your own players too, you know, and then recruit the guys on your team, recruit outside of it. I think what's made it difficult is the combination of that and today, the early signing date, because really when guys get in the portal, it's right after the season. So numbers change, roster management becomes very, very different than it was 3-4 years ago just because of that and the early signing date. So, yeah, it's as a coach, you have to have a different philosophy than you had 3-4 years ago because of those two items that have impacted recruiting. Because you know, the numbers can fluctuate depending on your situation and depending on the portal, depending on where you are with initials. So, yeah, it's changed a lot, and I think every coach right now has their own way of managing that process.
Yeah, just another thing that head coaches and entire staffs have to worry about, more balls that are juggling up in the air. Coach, appreciate you giving us a couple minutes here. Best of luck not only recruiting other guys, but your own players as well, apparently. Thanks again.
All right, thank you, guys.